Hi everybody and welcome to Red Story. Part 1. The Separation. Sarah and Michael Clayton had lived together for 10 years. Their marriage, like a fairy tale, began with love, hopes, and a shared desire for a bright future. They had a cozy 2-story brick house in the suburbs of Chicago, where every corner was filled with warmth and comfort. A nice car, a black SUV gleaming in the sun like a precious gem, and a cat named Lucy, soft and affectionate like a downy blanket, made their life perfect. Their house, nestled among tall oaks and maples, stood like a sentinel of their dreams. The red bricks, worn and weathered by time, held stories of laughter, whispered secrets, and the gentle touch of sunlight filtering through the leaves. The front porch, with its white wooden railing, invited one to sit and watch the world drift by in the golden afternoons. Every window was a portal to their shared past, reflecting the ebb and flow of their lives. The ivy creeping up one side of the house seemed to embrace it in a timeless, verdant hug. Inside, the house was a sanctuary of memories. The living room, with its plush, overstuffed sofas and a grand fireplace, was the heart of their home. The walls were adorned with framed photographs capturing moments of joy, Emily's first steps, a family vacation by the sea, and countless holidays spent together. The kitchen, with its oak cabinets and a large, sturdy table, was where Sarah's culinary magic happened, filling the home with the aroma of fresh bread and roasted vegetables. Their life before the separation was idyllic. They would spend weekends exploring the city, visiting art galleries and museums. Sarah, a librarian, would often organize storytelling sessions at the local library, and Michael loved to attend, watching her captivate an audience with her voice. They hosted dinner parties for friends and family, where laughter would fill the air, mingling with the clinking of glasses and the soft hum of background music. Evenings were spent in comfortable silence or lively conversation. They had a tradition of reading together before bed, a habit they had kept since their early days of marriage. Emily, their bright-eyed daughter, was the center of their world. They delighted in her curiosity and the way she brought life to their home with her laughter and endless questions. Their shared travels were some of their most cherished memories. They had traveled to Paris, where they strolled hand in hand along the Seine, marveling at the beauty of the city lights reflecting off the water. They climbed the Eiffel Tower and kissed at the top, feeling like they were on top of the world. In Italy, they explored the ancient ruins of Rome, shared gelato in Florence, and enjoyed the serene canals of Venice. Each trip was a new adventure, filled with laughter, discovery, and a deeper bond between them. In Japan, they found a sense of tranquility in the temples of Kyoto, and the bustling streets of Tokyo filled them with excitement and wonder. The cherry blossoms in spring were a sight to behold, and they spent hours wandering through parks, marveling at the delicate beauty of the flowers. In Australia, they explored the Great Barrier Reef, diving into the vibrant underwater world and feeling a sense of awe at the wonders of nature. In each destination, they immersed themselves in the local culture, trying new foods, learning bits of the language, and making friends with locals. These travels were not just vacations, they were a way to grow closer, to experience the world together, and to create memories that would last a lifetime. Sarah, a tall and slender woman with long chestnut hair, was always a mystery with her bright green eyes, holding the wisdom of the ancient world. Michael, tall and athletic with blue eyes, was the epitome of a successful and respected professional. He knew his life was a success. In his profession, he had reached great heights, becoming one of the most sought-after dentists in Chicago. He loved his work, his patience, and especially the quiet and focus he found in his office, looking at perfectly aligned rows of teeth. But despite the external well-being, Michael felt a growing sense of unease inside. He sensed that something elusive and troubling was slowly but surely penetrating through the wall of calm and order into his life. Perhaps it was because of Sarah, her mystery, her changing mood. One evening in early autumn, the weather was a perfect reflection of the turmoil in Michael's heart. The sky was a tapestry of gray and gold, with clouds drifting lazily like scattered thoughts. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of fallen leaves and distant rain. As the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the lawn, Sarah confessed to Michael that she was tired of household duties and wanted to work. Her voice was full of determination, as if she were about to conquer a new planet. Michael, wanting to support his wife, helped her get a job as a sales assistant for his friend John. John, of medium height with dark hair and brown eyes, had always been a reliable rock in the stormy sea of their lives. He enthusiastically took Sarah on board and mentored her. Sarah worked diligently, bringing work home, and soon it began to bear fruit. She underwent breast augmentation surgery, although Michael already considered her beautiful. Her figure became more toned, her skin glowed, and she literally blossomed before his eyes like a spring flower. But at the same time, she became cold, calculating, and even aggressive, like an icy north wind. Sarah started going to the gym, visiting the cosmetologist, training a lot, and watching her diet. Her transformation was astonishing. From a housewife, she turned into a confident, stylish, and attractive businesswoman. Michael couldn't help but notice how her views on life and their relationship changed. He felt a growing wall of misunderstanding between them. Their relationship began to cool down, empty evenings, rare intimacy, to which Sarah responded that she was tired from work. Despite everything, Michael loved her and tried to find compromises to keep the family together. But one day, as they sat at the oak kitchen table, Sarah suggested buying an apartment. Her voice sounded like the music of distant stars, but the words wounded his heart. Michael was stunned. They didn't have that kind of money. She offered to buy the apartment herself and asked him to sign a waiver of claims on it with a lawyer. Michael was hurt and drove away in his SUV, contemplating the situation. Time passed, and Michael began to suspect that Sarah was earning significantly more than him, possibly with John's help. Doubts about her fidelity arose. One tense conversation with his wife revealed that she no longer had feelings for him. They decided to separate. Michael often reminisced about how he and Sarah first met. It was in his dental office where she came in for a routine checkup. Sarah had walked in nervously, her fingers fidgeting with the strap of her purse. Michael, with his calming presence and professional demeanor, had put her at ease immediately. As she reclined in the chair, Michael noticed the way her eyes sparkled with a mixture of anxiety and curiosity. He had chatted with her, making small talk to distract her from the discomfort of the dental procedure. They spoke about the weather, their favorite books, and eventually, the conversation drifted to more personal topics. Michael was captivated by her intelligence and wit. She was a librarian at the local library, passionate about literature and history. The connection they felt was immediate and intense, like a spark that ignited a flame. After the appointment, Michael found himself thinking about her more than he should. He looked forward to her follow-up visits, where their conversations continued to flow effortlessly. It wasn't long before Michael gathered the courage to ask her out for coffee. That coffee date turned into dinner, and dinner into a whirlwind romance that led to their marriage. But now that spark seemed like a distant memory. Michael's heart ached as he thought about how far apart they had drifted. The house that once felt like a warm cocoon now seemed cold and unwelcoming. A few days later, Michael called Emily. Her little voice, like the ring of a silver bell, told him she was home alone and her mom had gone somewhere. Michael was furious. How could she leave a little girl alone? He went home, took the child, and waited for Sarah's call. A few hours later she called back, crying and saying that Emily was missing. Michael pretended to know nothing. Part 2. The next step. Sarah kept calling Michael, her voice trembling with despair. She begged him to help find Emily, offered forgiveness and reconciliation. Michael coldly replied that finding their daughter was the priority, and all conversations about their relationship could wait. He took Emily to his mother's house, knowing that the girl would be safe there. He then returned home, where he awaited Sarah's return. She burst into the house, her face red from crying, her eyes filled with fear and pain. Michael, looking at her, felt his heart clench with conflicting emotions. "Where is Emily?" Sarah screamed, her voice shaking. "Michael, tell me what you did with her." "She is safe," he coldly replied. "I won't let you risk her life. Leaving a child alone at home is irresponsible." Sarah fell to her knees, crying, and Michael felt a sharp pain in his heart. He didn't want to see her in this state, but he knew it was necessary for her to understand. "I was trying to build a new life," Sarah whispered through her tears. "I got lost, forgive me." "Sarah, we need to discuss a lot," Michael gently said, kneeling beside her. "I can't just forget everything that happened, but Emily is our priority. We need to think about her well-being." Sarah nodded, her tears streaming down her cheeks. They sat together on the cold floor, both understanding that a difficult path to understanding and possibly forgiveness lay ahead. Meanwhile, Michael began his investigation. He found a note with an unfamiliar address among Sarah's things. Taking this note, he went to the address and discovered it was the apartment where Sarah met John. Everything became clear. She was having an affair with his best friend. Michael photographed the apartment number and the license plates of the cars parked nearby. Returning home, he knew he now had proof of her infidelity. Michael decided not only to take Emily, but also to fight for custody of his daughter. End of the first part. Hi everybody and welcome to Red Story. Part 2. The beginning of the end. Michael decided to act methodically and cold-bloodedly. He knew that to truly strike at John and Sarah, he needed to gather enough evidence of John's illegal activities. Michael had a plan, and he knew he had all the necessary resources to implement it. The first step was to start studying John's affairs and business. Michael knew that not everything in John's company was honest and transparent. He remembered a former employee of John's with whom he once had a special relationship. Her name was Lisa, and she worked in John's company in the finance department. Michael knew that Lisa could provide him with valuable information about how money flowed in the firm. Michael contacted Lisa, explained the situation, and asked for her help. Lisa, dissatisfied with her former boss and still harboring warm feelings for Michael, agreed. She began passing him information about John's financial machinations. Lisa revealed the schemes used to evade taxes and launder money. In exchange for her help, Michael promised her protection and support. Meanwhile, Michael also enlisted several acquaintances who were experts in financial auditing and legal affairs. They began analyzing documents and searching for evidence of John's illegal activities. The work was painstaking and time-consuming, but Michael was determined to see it through. About a month later, Michael gathered enough information to shut down John's business. He knew that if he handed this data over to the tax authorities and law enforcement, it would have serious consequences for John. John's firm would undergo a thorough inspection, and John himself could end up behind bars. Additionally, this would hit Sarah hard. She would lose her job, and her world would crumble. Michael was elated. He understood that this way he would strike both betrayers. His wife wouldn't be able to work, and his friend would lose at least his money and reputation. Michael meticulously prepared the case, giving his enemies time to relax and let their guard down. He had the patience to wait for the right moment to strike. During these weeks, Michael carefully hid his actions. He behaved calmly and amicably, not giving any indication that he was preparing something. Sarah and John, seeing his calmness, began to think that Michael had accepted their betrayal. They relaxed, unaware that a storm was brewing over them. Michael waited for the right moment. He wanted the blow to be unexpected and crushing. His patience and cold-bloodedness allowed him to remain in the shadows, preparing his revenge. When everything was ready, Michael gathered all the documents and handed them over to his lawyer and auditor friends to file the official charges. Now all that was left was to wait for the law to take its course. Michael knew that revenge would be sweet and just. He felt that in this way he was restoring justice and punishing those who betrayed his trust and destroyed his family. While John and Sarah enjoyed their vacation in exotic places, John's business began to crumble under the weight of inspections and investigations. John's phone never stopped ringing, with endless calls from the tax authorities and lawyers ruining their holiday. Instead of the planned relaxation, they faced stress and worry. The tax inspection revealed serious violations, and a freeze was imposed on all of John's company's financial operations. This was the beginning of the end for his business. Over several weeks, the inspections became more intense, and financial schemes surfaced one after another. John realized that his firm was on the brink of collapse. Michael, observing what was happening, convinced himself that his actions were just. He believed that good must come with a fist and that it was necessary to punish those who destroyed his family. He understood that impunity only encourages betrayal, and he was sure he was doing the right thing. After some time, John's business closed. Sarah, having lost her job, found herself in a difficult situation. The couple was under enormous pressure, and their relationship began to crack. Michael heard from acquaintances that John and Sarah constantly quarreled and blamed each other for what had happened. Michael, hearing the news, felt a fleeting sense of triumph, but it was quickly overshadowed by a deep, gnawing emptiness. He began drinking more frequently. At first it was just a glass of whiskey in the evening to calm his nerves, but it soon escalated into full-blown binges that lasted days. Alcohol became his solace and a way to drown out the pain and anger that continued to eat away at him. He felt that he had lost not only his family but also himself in this whirlwind of revenge and rage. His once immaculate home now bore the marks of his descent into despair. Empty bottles littered the floor, and the once pristine living room was now a mess of overturned furniture and scattered belongings. Lucy, their cat, wandered through the chaos, sensing the change in her owner but unable to help. Michael's mother, sensing something was wrong, tried to intervene. She visited him frequently, bringing food and trying to clean up the house, but her efforts were met with hostility and resistance. "I'm fine, Mom," Michael would snap, pushing her away. "I don't need your help." Emily, their bright-eyed daughter, was the silent witness to all this turmoil. She spent most of her time at her grandmother's house, shielded from the worst of her father's breakdown. But she wasn't oblivious. She saw the change in her father, the way his eyes no longer sparkled with warmth but were clouded with pain and anger. She missed the laughter, the bedtime stories, and the sense of security that once filled their home. Unexpectedly for Michael, Sarah left John. Their relationship couldn't withstand the trials they faced. As it later turned out, she found a new partner, a wealthier businessman. This only intensified Michael's feelings of bitterness and betrayal. He realized that Sarah had always strived for more, and his love and support had never been enough for her. During this time, Michael sank deeper into reflection on what had happened to his life. He had achieved his goal, but the price was too high. He had lost his family, friends, and possibly himself. Reflecting on his prayers and faith in God, he questioned whether revenge had brought him satisfaction or only deepened his suffering. Michael's internal struggle was palpable. On one hand, he felt justified in his actions. They had wronged him, and they deserved to face the consequences. On the other hand, the teachings of his faith gnawed at him. He remembered the sermons about forgiveness, about letting go of anger and finding peace through God. Yet every time he tried to pray, he saw the faces of Sarah and John, their betrayal burning brightly in his mind. As he sat in his wrecked living room one night, a bottle of whiskey in hand, Michael wondered if he would ever find peace. The room was dimly lit by the flickering glow of the television, which he barely paid attention to. His thoughts were a whirlwind of regret, anger, and longing for the life he had lost. Emily's well-being weighed heavily on his mind. He knew she was suffering, even if she didn't show it. Children were resilient, but they weren't impervious to the chaos around them. Michael wanted to be a good father, to give her the stability and love she needed, but he felt trapped in his own despair. One evening, as Michael sat on the porch, staring at the darkening sky, he heard the soft footsteps of Emily approaching. She sat beside him, her small hand slipping into his. "Daddy, are you okay?" she asked, her voice filled with concern beyond her years. Michael looked at her, tears welling up in his eyes. He saw the innocence in her face, the hope that things would get better. "I'm trying, sweetheart," he whispered, pulling her into a tight embrace. "I'm really trying." In that moment, Michael realized that he needed to change, not just for himself but for Emily. He couldn't let his pain and anger destroy her future. It wouldn't be easy. But he had to find a way to rebuild their lives, to find a path to forgiveness and healing. The next day, Michael reached out to a support group for those dealing with betrayal and addiction. He knew it was a small step, but it was a step in the right direction. He needed to find strength, not in revenge, but in rebuilding his life and being the father Emily deserved. The journey ahead was uncertain, filled with challenges and setbacks, but Michael was determined to find his way back, to rediscover the man he once was, and to create a better future for himself and his daughter. Through the darkness, he hoped to find light, and through his pain, he sought redemption. In the months that followed, Michael attended regular meetings, slowly finding solace in the shared experiences of others. He reconnected with his faith, seeking guidance and strength in prayer. Gradually, he began to piece his life back together, one small step at a time. Sarah, now with her new partner, faded into the background of Michael's thoughts. His focus shifted from his anger towards her and John to the love and care he needed to provide for Emily. He found joy in the little moments with his daughter, in the simple routines that brought a sense of normalcy back into their lives. Emily thrived under her father's renewed attention and care. The bond between them grew stronger, built on mutual trust and love. Michael realized that his true victory wasn't in bringing down John or Sarah, but in rebuilding his relationship with his daughter and finding peace within himself. As the seasons changed and time marched on, the wounds of the past slowly began to heal. Michael knew he would never forget the betrayal, but he also knew that he had the power to shape his own future. With Emily by his side, he looked forward to the possibilities that lay ahead, hopeful for a brighter tomorrow.